Welcome. You have arrived at STEM City USA, a safe and trusted community where you can find people and resources to help you become everything you are and beyond, accessible to all who reach for the stars.
Have you ever wondered how your COVID test works? I am Moria Bowman, a BEYA Stars and Stripes STEM ambassador, 11th grader from Gainesville, Florida. I am in a lab coat because we have a scientist. Today, we have Dr. J at the North Central Florida DNA and Diagnostic Lab. The North Central Florida DNA Lab makes polymerase chain reaction, or PCR tests, just like the one in my hand. Dr. J is one of the owners. I am joined by my co-host, Celia Hurst. Over to you, Celia.
Thanks, Moria. Hi, everyone. I'm Celia Hurst from Sarasota, Florida, and I'm a 12th grade student in Florida Virtual Schools. I am happy to report that I was recently accepted to Florida State University. The BEYA Stars and Stripes Career Day was started by Lieutenant General Bruce Crawford, U.S. Army retired, and Vice Admiral Walt Davis, U.S. Navy retired. They are our chairman and chairman emeritus, and they serve as mentors to students and teens like you and I from all across the country. Over to you, Lieutenant General Crawford.
Well, thanks so much, Leah, and didn't want to let this moment pass. First, I wanted to welcome everyone and thank you for the gift of your time. But you said something that I thought was really important, and we didn't want to let this moment pass without saying congratulations to you for the next step on your journey and being accepted into Florida State. And so thank you. All right, so I wanted to start this morning because it's truly an honor to be affiliated with BEYA and to have the honor of probably giving the greatest gift that we can give to our young people. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the gift of a good example. And I think BEYA does that. But I wanted to start with a little quote this morning. And the quote is from philosopher William Craig. And it says, I quote, "Purpose is the reason you're on this journey, but passion is the torch that lights your way." So our purpose this morning is really about exposing you to information that ignites a passion for a career in STEM. So today we have the honor of hearing from scientists, and we are super excited to hear this message this morning when you think about what scientists have given to us, especially over the last 24 months during the pandemic. And I think they do two big things about us. They give us knowledge about the past, but what's more important is scientists give us knowledge about the future. So finally, what today is all about an opportunity for you, our next greatest generation of leaders, to experience what I consider to be the art of the possible from ordinary people who are doing extraordinary things to literally change the world. And so you should have one big question of them, and that question should be, why not me? And so I look forward to yet another great event today, and thanks so much to everyone for being here with us. So having said that, over to you, Lydia.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lydia Tesfaye, and I am a junior at Springbrook High School from Silver Spring, Maryland, and I am so excited to announce Dr. J. Dr. J is a nationally renowned scientist. He received his PhD in genetics and molecular biology. He has done research all across America, including at the University of California, Berkeley on the West Coast, and the University of Massachusetts Amherst on the East Coast. He was a professor at the University of Florida for almost 2 decades and has worked with the state of Florida at the Department of Consumer Affairs, testing for viruses, bacteria, and fungi using molecular assays. He is the co-founder of North Central Florida DNA and Diagnostics Laboratories, or NCF, which tests for COVID. They do this by using a special machine and special tests that Dr. J creates using Pcr, or polymerase chain reaction technology. Teens around the country and Young Middle Magnet School in Tampa, Florida, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. J.
I started coming here to the United States to learn more technology. I ended up in University of Massachusetts. I was given a very challenging project in genetics, and also at the University of California at Berkeley, in the genetics department. During this process, I learned a lot about DNA technology, genetics, how it's going to change the world in the future. And sure enough, when COVID hit United States 2 years ago, there were hardly any lab available to do the testing and protect the 300 million people living in this country. But well ahead of before that, I have got enough experiences, enough training, exactly to meet that challenge. So this lab was already set up and ready to go. So we were able to step in and help perform COVID testing for all the populations. The first, we were only testing people like police, fire servicemen, and doctors and nurses, because they are the frontline workers. Then subsequently we expanded and started testing even the school kids and also anybody who goes to a drive-through facility. So the testing has become a future of our healthcare. And the past 20 years, we have been giving a lot of importance to computer technology, but the next 20 years is going to be for DNA technology, because we will be inventing and discovering a lot more products that human being can use and protect and live long in this world. So I'm going to walk you through the lab so you can see all the equipments and everything I use to deliver the technology to the public. So let's go around and see at that time everything. And mostly when I'm working with the DNA technology, I synthesize all the reagent in-house myself using different machines. And the first machine I use is the DNA synthesis machine. The DNA synthesis happens in a small tube like this, a tiny little tube. And you can see a white pellet in there, which is actually a pore glass. And in this, a fragment of DNA is synthesized to look for a specific gene in any organism, including human DNA or microbial DNA or viral DNA or anything. So this technology was developed in 1950s. Even today, it is being used exactly the way we have been doing. And one thing that you can see a machine here, and this machine is the one where we put all these reagents like DNA bases in different bottles, and it's also it's controlled by a computer system. In the computer system, I type in all the necessary DNA requirements, and the machine automatically turns on and synthesizes the entire DNA in this little column. These columns are actually placed inside this machine, and the whole synthesis happens inside here, and all these chemicals are injected into that column through all these little tubes you have, the plastic tubes. And the chemicals, all the DNA bases are loaded in those bottles, and they go in and inject into the column, and they complete the synthesis on this little thing. There is enough DNA synthesized to screen almost 5,000 patient samples in here. So you can do up to 5,000 PCR tests using this the DNA that got synthesized, and it's completely computer controlled. The entire machine, this DNA synthesis process was developed by an Indian guy by name Dr. Hargobind Singh Khurana. He developed it in Chicago, and he won a Nobel Prize for that. This is the technology he developed, and even today it is being used. He passed away like 2 to 3 years ago, but his technology is extensively used all over the world, even today. And Once we do the synthesis, then the chemical that is synthesized into 3 different reagents. Any gene you want to synthesize, you need a little chemicals. You need 3 things. One is a forward DNA sequence, and the next one is a reverse DNA sequence, and then a colored probe. These 3 things goes into testing every gene. So these things come out of that machine that I just showed you, and we do that every single time. The entire synthesis process takes about a day. And once it is synthesized, and we can extract human DNA from what you saw on that little swab, and you put all those things in this small well. Can you see a tiny piece of well? And you can see the bottom of it, there is also a little tube, and this is where we add a tiny amount of those reagent. That's why you are able to use this reagent. This much of reagent is enough to do 5,000 people all over the United States. You can see, you can screen a whole bunch of people using that much of material, and they go in a very tiny amount. So we are going to go to the next room, and I'll show you how I actually do the testing.
So, Dr. J,
Yes.
what is this room called? That machine
This is a DNA synthesizer.
This is the DNA synthesizer room. Okay.
This is the one that synthesizes. This is the reagent that goes into your DNA testing. Once you synthesize this reagent, you mix those reagents along with a small amount of DNA extracted out of your nose, and they go into this little tube. Then once this is pipetted in this little tube, placed in this little tube, I'm going to show how the PCR machine works.
Wow. So anybody who comes in here can make DNA in this room?
Yes.
Wow. Incredible.
And you can make in this room, and you can make enough reagent to screen the entire population of the city of Gainesville. So
in that small room, we could make enough DNA for 100,000 people?
Yes, easily you can do that. And you can even turn out even million tests if we have continuously to run those machines.
Wow.
So it is the whole process is done within these 4 walls of this building. So once you come in here, this machine is known as a Pcr machine. So I'm turning it on, and remember I made those DNA, synthesized those DNA in the other machine. I mix them up in this little tube, and then once I mix them up in this little tube, I place them into this small tray right here.
Almost like a cassette.
Almost like a cassette. You can see, you just put it in here. Once you put it in here and close the lid, and you can say the plate went into it, and the machine takes about an hour to run, and you have here is the entire picture of that plate, and you can see, you can basically see each 3 lane belong to 1 patient sample or 1 human being. They wanted to know whether they have COVID or not. So you can see, we can click on 1 well, and you can click on the next well, you can click on this well. So we normally test 2 different markers on a COVID sample. In this case, this patient is testing positive for COVID. You can see the DNA got synthesis is tracked, and we do the synthesis for almost 45 cycles, and you can see the cycle numbers are here. It goes through a cyclical process, and you can see that around 20 cycles afterwards, the DNA synthesis started growing, and it is tracked by a camera inside, and it is live streamed into this well. And this is, we are looking at one first well. In this plate, you are looking at 1 well, and you can see the first.
So Dr. J, how many wells?
There are 384 wells here.
303 of them belong.
3 of them belong to each patient. And you can see the first patient I screened today, he tested positive for COVID. You can see there are two different markers. We test for two different markers to make sure it is truly COVID. And also we look at the internal, it makes sure it is also the patient DNA. And you can see the second patient is also testing positive. And you can see the third person is testing negative. You can see his control DNA is amplifies, but the COVID DNA is missing in this third patient. You can see the first patient is positive for two markers as well as the internal control. And you can see the second patient is positive for the two marker and the internal control. The third person is not positive. So he's clean and the internal control work. And you can see the fourth patient is negative also. Let's look at the fifth one, but he is positive. You can see the marker number 1 is positive, marker number 2 is positive, his internal control is positive. And you can see I only screened 5 patients, 2 are negative and 3 are positive. Look at the number of percentage it's going to be. It's going to be really high. Now it's the 6th patient. He's testing positive. You can see each well can be tracked. Each well, the DNA synthesis tracked. Now the 6th patient is also positive. Let's look at the 7th one. He's also positive. So this is how we track the disease. And you can see the next patient. He's also positive.
So Dr. J, is there a person who runs this machine who gets a report that tells of the 384 wells,
Yes,
128 patients or whatever, how many of them were positive?
yes, that is what this is, technologist's job today is. And he is the one who is doing a college course across the street. He comes and I train him and he does the whole thing for me.
So
And
a college student can do all of this?
Yes, all of it.
Wow.
Who is doing a bachelor's degree in biology. He is the one who is doing all of this for me.
Okay.
So I'm expecting them to be at this level when they are at the college as early as possible. We don't have too much time. So we have a lot of work to do.
That's right.
So the pandemic is not over yet. We are going to be in this for another 2 years. So we need everybody to cooperate and everybody to learn science very fast. Everybody to start working. It is a grassroots level activity. Previously, I was the only one doing it before pandemic. But after pandemic, I can't do it for everything. So I have to have all these people trained and up and running. So the sooner the better. And previously I used to collect sample in a doctor's office. Not anymore. Now we are doing it at the grassroots level at the drive-through facility in your shopping mall. So it's all on us now. We have to do all that. So science is now gone to the grassroots level. I know Matt does that. He does grassroots level. He even collects sample from his church members. So I get sample from New York Orchestra. The musicians want to test before they go to the orchestra. You saw last week what happened in Washington, D.C. All our lawmakers went to attend a show called Gridian Show, and our speaker got infected with COVID. And our CAA director got infected with COVID. And our, Adam Schiff, he's actually the leading senator, got COVID. So we have lots of people got COVID by just attending one show. They didn't test. If they would have tested it and they would have known who is a positive one, they could have prevented the person from attending that conference, attending that show there. They could have protected themselves. Even they are dropping their guard and they are able to, they are having problems. So it's the same way with the school, the same way everywhere in real world. So we need a lot of trained people, a lot of young people to get educated on this technology as fast as they can. And then they need to start implementing this to take care of their community.
And then Dr. J,
Yes.
that is the monitor. What goes on in this machine? Is it cooking? Is it baking?
What it does, this reaction, polymerase chain reaction, is done. It has like those 3 reagents I showed you. It goes into it, and then a little bit of DNA extract from the nose that goes into it, and also goes into it an enzyme which survives 100 degrees. that enzyme is actually extracted, which is called a DNA polymerase, that was extracted from a bacteria that lives in Yellowstone, in that 100-degree spice, geysers over there. Because the water in Yellowstone that come out of volcano is 100 degrees. There are bacteria living there. The enzyme was extracted from that. That goes into this plate. And that enzyme allows this reaction to go through, because it go through 40 cycles. And each, the DNA synthesized connects with the viral RNA and DNA at 60 degrees centigrade. So the machine, what it does, it cools to 60 degrees and then it heats up to 100 degrees. At 100 degrees, the enzyme from Yellowstone geysers start working. It makes a copy of the DNA. So every time it makes a copy of the DNA, and the DNA need to be separated at 100 degrees, and the synthetic DNA need to be attached to it, and it goes through the process. So basically, we do have, I'll show you inside. This is how the inside of the machine look like. And you can see a 96, the plate goes on this. And this is how, but this block, it can heat and cool. Less than 10 seconds to 60 degrees. It can go to less than 10 seconds to 100 degrees. So it's a heating block specially made. And this is the key for the PCR machine. And all my reagents on the plate goes on top of this. And you can see it fits perfectly. I showed you those little tubes. They fit perfectly into each well, 384 well. And that's where this reaction is happening. If you notice, I'm not putting anything except the little bit of RNA DNA extract from your nasal swab, and 3 reagents that I synthesize on the machine, and then the polymerase from Yellowstone National Park. Those are the 5 things that goes in there. And then this machine does the magic, which is heats and cools 40 times. And when there is one molecule in one cycle, can be made into 2 copies. In the second cycle, it can be made into 4 copies. In the third cycle, it can make it into 8 copies. In the fourth cycle, it can be made into 16. So it keep on exponentially growing. By number of 40 cycle, it can be million copies can be synthesized. So if we use a number of cycles to determine how many virus particles present in your nose, it could be as high as even 1 billion copies. So that can be counted using this machine. So it's fairly simple machine. And I operate this machine, and you also need to do that. It's a basic requirement. That's how that machine is done. And then once it is done, then the report goes out to the patient. Hey, you are positive. You need to go to the nearest hospital right away and get help. So he now knows how many million virus particles are present in that patient. I can show you. Let's see. The first patient, you can see he has taken about 27 cycles before it crossed the threshold. So that means this patient has got probably 1 billion virus particles in his nose, in his lungs. So
how many virus particles would it take to infect another person?
Less than 10.
Less than 10?
Yes,
wow.
That's all it takes to infect another person. But this person is producing 1 billion particles in his nose. And think how many people it can infect. Luckily, we don't have too many people meeting each other. If we is in a football field, all it requires is one person with this high a virus load to spread the virus around. So it's a plume, you don't see it with your eye, the virus particle. And it is very lightweight. It can float in the air. So you can, if you walk through the plume, anyone walk through the plume can easily get less than 10 virus particles. All it requires is one virus particle to get into your nose before you get infected. That's all it takes. And if you get 10 virus particles, you may get infected faster. If you get 10,000 virus particles into your nose, your infection will be even more severe. If you have 1,000,000 virus particles got into your nose, we call them as an initial inoculum dose. It can be even more severe. All right, let's go back, and you can have more questions for me, so we can do that.
Dr. J, if
Yes.
a sample comes into the lab,
Yes.
does it come here first? Can you talk us through admissions and how it goes?
Yes. Well, basically, it comes to a computer station because we need to keep track of everything. So in the computer station, we attach a barcode, things like that. So we can keep track of each patient very clearly. Then after that, it goes to an extraction station. Extraction station is a simple machine which actually extracts DNA and give it to me. Then once that is given to me, it comes in here. This is where I mix the plate. Once I mix the plate, then it's all ready to go into the machine, the PCR machine. And within an hour, you will know whether you got infected or not.
So, Dr. J, why does it take people 2 and 3 days to get the results for their COVID test?
That is because, why it is taking 2 to 3 days? Because of logistics. Because the sooner the sample arrives inside the lab, then very quickly you can process the sample. But unfortunately, we are not organized that well yet. Collection happen in one city, and then it goes into FedEx, it goes to another city. We don't have enough trained people, or we don't have all the things in one place. Like I showed you here, everything is in one place. That's not the case in many states and many cities. Even New York City don't have all this infrastructure built in. So they have to collect, and the doctor may collect a sample and he may have to send to another state through FedEx, and you lose 1 day right there. It is a logistic is what is the problem. Technology is there, but we don't have enough people trained and enough technology in every city. We don't have that infrastructure yet. I generated it right here in Gainesville. I have been working on it because I'm already fully trained and expected, and I've been doing this. You can put the battery. So that's what it is. It's the technology is there. Low battery.
Let's go to the laptop.
Yes.
So,
Well, now
Dr.
I have some questions.
While your laptop is coming up, that was a fascinating tour. And then we're going to go back to questions and answers with the BEYA STEM ambassadors and, of course, the students at Young Middle School. But this was absolutely fantastic. So we're going to log back on to StreamYard. And then for those of you who are listening, the process of collecting a COVID sample and then getting that collected sample here to the lab. You've had the benefit of touring one of the state of Florida's top labs. There's a number of people and many, many jobs that happen here. Today you see Dr. J and I, but the staff here, almost 50 people work here in this building, processing all of those collections, samples, reading that data. So Dr. J is back on the line. So over to you, Moria, Celia, and Lydia for questions.
Okay, thank you. How long does it take to set up a DNA lab?
To set up a DNA lab, it takes just 1 week only. All you need is a PCR machine and a DNA synthesizer and a DNA extraction machine and chemicals and supplies. You can place orders for all of them, and they all arrive. And if you are a fully trained technologist, you can hook it up and running within a week.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. Celia?
All right, the next question we have for you is, are there internships or things that kids can do in the lab?
Well, this is a new thing that internship is in molecular biology and genetics has become a very important tool for us right now. And we do have internship for young kids who are studying bachelor's degree in clinical laboratory science program right across the street. We have the scientific college from where I'm located, and the students are undergoing bachelor's degree courses over there. I hire them as an intern right away. They come here and they get paid, and they work for me. And those are the people who ran all those tests.
That sounds very interesting. I definitely, once I get to college, want to experience different internships in the medical field. So.
I agree.
So our next question, if I want to be a geneticist, what classes do I need to take?
Well, all you need to take is when you join your bachelor's degree in biology, first 2 years you will be doing mostly the core courses, which teaches the basics of like what is life and what is cell, and how to classify them, how to identify an animal or a plant or things like that. Once they complete the core courses, then you go into advanced courses, and that's where you learn genetics. And it's a 1-semester course, and you will learn everything about DNA and everything about genes and everything about identification and technology. And when you go for a master's degree, you learn at a higher level even more, and you start working more hands-on. You do more hands-on work starting at bachelor's degree level itself, and then you continue into your master's degree at a higher level, and when you do your PhD even at a much higher level. So it's just 1 semester it takes after core courses are complete.
Okay, thank you. Moria?
In my school, we don't have technology like the lab. What can I do at home? Science fair. What can I do to be a geneticist?
Actually, you see the genes and the actions of the gene inside your home all the time. All you have to do is talk to your grandparents and parents about is there any genetic disease in the family? Did anyone suffer from cancer? Did anyone suffer from heart disease? Did anyone suffer from sickle cell disease? Did anyone suffer from any of those genetic diseases? And you'll always surprised to see the answer will be an S. And then you can start looking at the genes that went through the entire family, and that's all genetics is about. And if you look at a piece of food like a corn, and that corn is, if you can see different color corns in that, yellow color, purple, they're all due to genes. These are all gene actions. So the genetics is all around you. You just have to go and explore that.
Wow. Thank you.
Well, from a young age, I've been interested in genetics, and I remember when I was first introduced to Punnett squares in about the 6th or 7th grade, I always found them interesting. But as I said earlier, I'll be going to Florida State next year, and I was wondering if genetics is a major or minor.
Genetics is taught, there is no specific course exclusively called genetics. It's part of biology. It's still taught as a biology because genetics requires you need understanding of biology as well as chemistry. So both is a combination of both. So basically you'll be, it's never taught as a specific bachelor's degree in genetics or master's degree in genetics. It is a important core course, and you can select it, you can get into it, you can get more, there will be a geneticist sitting there to help you through the whole process. And it's never a single course. It is up to you to jump into it and learn more about that.
Okay, thank you. I'll definitely keep that in mind.
Yes.
Is it dangerous to work in a lab? And what are some of the risks?
Oh, not at all. It is very, very, I have been working in this COVID testing lab for the past 2 years. I have never been infected with COVID. And there are people walking around in Walmart and they're getting infected with COVID. So I'm screening 10,000 COVID patients a day sometimes. So I'm handling all those specimens, but I didn't get infected. But the people who are walking on the street are the one getting infected. They are careless. Whereas I'm very careful. Look, I'm wearing a lab coat, and I use, I'm all the time carrying in my pocket pair of gloves to protect myself, and there is a specific protocol we follow, and I have young students who come from community nearby college working for me. None of them got exposed, none of them got infected. We have been handling 10,000 patients a day, and we have been doing it for the past 2 years. We never got infected. You saw that a lot of people who are on the street, they're getting infected. Why? Because they are careless. In the lab, we're extremely careful. We never have any incidents.
That's
Wow,
good to know.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Back to you, Moria.
What is the most exciting part about being a scientist and working with genetics?
The most exciting part and working in genetics is when a patient comes, he's really sick, and he don't know what's wrong with him. The other day, a doctor came. The doctor was feeling very nauseous, and he was, showing all kinds of symptoms. He drove through the parking lot, gave me a sample, and then I do the extraction, I do the testing, and I have to make a phone call to tell her she's suffering from COVID. And she's very thankful when I gave the information to her, because you don't know what she's suffering from, and that's rewarding for me. I helped somebody today, a fellow human being, to diagnose themselves. So now they can go and get a care, prior to coming to my lab, they don't know what's wrong with them. Now, after I complete my testing, they know what their problem is. They know what to do next, that makes you feel good in the end of the day, more than money or anything.
I agree.
The next question we have is, how do you go about solving new problems, and how do you come up with those solutions?
I normally don't go look for a problem until I'm faced with a problem. So, I usually, the doctor will call and say, hey, Jay, I have a patient here. I don't know what's wrong with him, but that patient, traveled to Mexico and came back. Can you, he's having a stomach problem. Can you solve this problem? Then I have a clue, because he went to Mexico and came back. There are some diseases specific to Mexico is not present in the United States. So then I focus only on that. And sure enough, one of those diseases will be detected on that patient who traveled to Mexico and came down with the disease. So it is like that's how I proceed. I get a preliminary information, I make some sense out of it, and then I design my experiment based on that.
Yeah, it's good to hear that in real life you take the problems that you have and you break them up kind of into pieces, and you
Yes.
pick like a big thing and then you figure out the solution from there.
Yes.
All right.
That's how it
Back
is
to
done.
Lydia.
Is there a team of people that you work with, or do you work alone?
Initially, I was working alone because I was the only one when I started this lab, because there was nobody else around me. Then I quickly discovered I have to bring more people and train them and bring them up to speed. I right now I have about 50 people working here, and I trained all of them, and I have a team, and each one is basically like me. They do everything that I do, but I trained them to come up to my level. So I have about 50 people, and it's a ton of, and we work in different shifts. First shift, morning shift, comes to screen patients in the morning. Then an afternoon shift, there is another group of people come, and then evening there is another one. So I have 3 shifts, and people come in rotations to help me in all through this process. And there are 50 people working here right now. That was like 2 years ago, I was one.
That's a lot of people. Do you like what you do, and how many hours a day do you work?
And it depends on the pandemic, for example. Like 3 weeks ago, like maybe like 2 or 3 months ago, we had Omicron crisis. So when a crisis like that hits, I stay working from early morning 7 o'clock until midnight, 1 o'clock. And because you have to stay, we have to be ready to face the challenge, and I continuously monitor and continuously go and work with the people, and it goes like that. And then when the wave is slows down, I work 8 hours. And sometimes the machine that you saw, that DNA synthesizer, it takes 11 hours to complete. So you have to be here for 11 hours. So and that is one of the things I teach the young people. Hey, don't follow 8-hour schedule, because this machine is going to run for 11 hours. So you need to be here for 11 hours. Be prepared for it. Get up early in the morning and come to the lab soon. And then you will be able to go home at 8 o'clock at night. And it may not be everyday thing. It's just one or 2 days in a week. So you be prepared, and you be ready on your feet, and be prepared to face the challenge, depending on the project you are handling that day.
Thank you for the advice. Celia?
Thank you. Speaking of just the days that you go through, what would you say is a typical day like for a lab director or an owner of a lab?
Well, my typical day starts early morning, and depending on the demand, and they immediately say, hey, for example, I get a call the other day from Dr. Peterson. He says, hey, I don't feel too good. Can you just hurry up and process my sample right now? Because I'm not feeling very good. So, okay, I immediately raise up to the occasion and treat him as a human being, and try to help him out that day. And then on top of it, this is on top of my normal workload. And around 10 o'clock, there is a FedEx comes and drops like 50 samples from all over Florida. Then I have to process that. So I have to supervise that process and make sure everything is cataloged correctly. And then all the information goes into the computer system. And then all the nasal swabs are extracted. And it by the end of the day, the 384 well plate is made, and then put on that PCR machine, and the PCR is completed, and a report is generated, and then the report is sent out to all the people through email or a portal access and everything. So it's a busy place. It's every minute there's something going on. So sometimes I lose track of my time. I miss my lunch. Oh, it's time to eat. My stomach says you are hungry. Then only I realized, oh, I missed my lunch by 1 hour. So I don't eat.
Okay. So is this the kind of business that you would recommend for your children?
This is the business that's going to be in the next 20 years, because we will need a lab in every city in the United States. Not only if the city is too big, we need a lab in every street, for example. If it is a big city like Houston or something, that needs multiples of labs, because we want to protect ourselves. And the pandemic has taught us something, that is, we need all this infrastructure as early as possible, and in every place, every nook and corner of the United States, if we are going to protect 300 million people. Otherwise, we already lost 1 million people so far. And I'm afraid that there is another wave coming in another month down the road. We may be losing another 200,000. So it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable as a country, and it's not sustainable as a community. We may lose more people. The only way we can prevent that is to have as many labs as possible. I would say we need at least 5,000 labs or even 10,000 labs throughout the United States, distributed all over.
That's very interesting.
That's a lot of labs.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna hear some questions from the classroom now.
Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
My name is Whitney Newton, and I go to Young Middle Magnet School, and I'm in 7th grade. I have 3 questions for you.
Okay.
My first question is, who invented COVID?
The COVID is actually a virus, and I think it's first time it was found out it was causing disease in Wuhan, China, but these viruses are commonly present in bats. Bats are full of viruses. You know those bats, you see them flying around? They have lots of coronaviruses. And one of them, from that bat, somehow jumped and attacked human beings. And we don't know because there are lots of bats all over the world, and there are so many. Each one of them have plenty of COVID viruses, and one of them somehow got out of the bat and started attacking us. We have never tracked it down where it came from. You know.
Thank you. My second question is, like, how did you guys, like, I don't know how to say this, but how do you know, well, how did you make the COVID vaccine? Well, how did you make the COVID vaccine? And if it's helping others, why is it killing other people or making people sick?
All right, the COVID vaccine. You know, COVID has got a spike protein, which is on the top of the COVID virus. It's like a spike, and that is the gene that makes the spike protein, is the one that need to we make a vaccine from. And the COVID vaccine is made by an African American girl by name Dr. Culprit. She's just like you. She's 35 years old from North Carolina. She was like me. She studied all the courses that I took, and then she went through the process, and she's now the director of the program in National Institute of Health in Washington. And she is the one who designed that Moderna mRNA vaccine using that spike protein sequence. Once she got that sequence, she designed that entire mRNA vaccine, she synthesized it, and she is the one who distributing that vaccine all over the world right now. And in fact, President Biden went to say thank you to her like a month ago. And because she is the one who supervises, he's only 35 years old. So now each one of those, what happened, there is a fight going on between us and the virus, and the virus can suddenly change the spike protein. Then it's up to Dr. Culprit. She's going to make another vaccine for that. Then there's a fight goes on between the COVID vaccine and again between us, and a new variant emerges. The spike protein is now slightly different. So it's a constant battle that goes on between us and the virus. Every time a new variant comes up, we need a new COVID vaccine.
Thank you.
And it's up to Dr. Culprit. She is doing it for us.
Good morning, Dr. J. My name's Danae, and I'm in 7th grade. My question is, how do you know what to put in vaccines for the COVID?
Very simple. We know the virus, when it comes into our bloodstream, it's attaching to our cell and penetrating our cell. It's using the spike protein, because the spike protein is the one that sticks to our cell and recognizes our cell and penetrates our cell. So we know, because the COVID has got many other protein, we don't design vaccine against other proteins, because other proteins the COVID is not using to penetrate our cell. The spike protein is the one the COVID is using to penetrate our cell. So we design a vaccine against that to block that.
Oh, thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr.
Okay.
J. I got 2 questions for you. My name is Augusto. I got 2 questions for you. How did you know the vaccine worked for teenagers and adults?
Yeah, the vaccine we are using right now is designed for the original COVID that hit Wuhan in 2020. And then that virus, that's the vaccine we're using, because we know the spike protein on that strain. So we designed a vaccine to block that, and it is working. But the problem is the virus is very clever. It's changing, right? So it has changed its spike protein structure. So we need another vaccine. The Delta variant is a new variant that came and hit us. 6 months ago. Then Omicron, the spike protein changed again, and it hit us again in like 3 months ago. So we have to make another. We don't have a Omicron specific vaccine yet. You'll be getting it sometime in the next fall. So we have to constantly make those vaccines depending on what hits us. Right now we are in the middle of Omicron crisis, but we don't have a vaccine for that yet. We need it.
Okay. As a middle schooler, how can I contribute to studies?
Very easy. You can contribute very easily. Where you talk to your parents, you talk to your grandparents, you talk to your neighbors and your friends, encourage them to get a vaccine, because the vaccination rate has to be at least 95 to 99% to control this virus. Currently, our vaccination rate is very low in the United States because people don't know vaccine is going to protect them. So as a middle schooler, you can encourage them. Hey, vaccine protects people. No harm in taking vaccine. Take it. It helps you. And it's made by another African American girl by name Dr. Corbett. She's only 35 years old. So she designed it for us. So it's better to take it, and it protects you. So you can talk and encourage people to take that, because we need to reach maximum of 90 to 95 to 99% to control this disease. Then only we'll come out of this disease. Right now, only 60 to 70% population is vaccinated with 2 vaccine, and only like 30% are vaccinated with 3 vaccine. But we need to have 90 to 95 to 99% goal we need to achieve. Then only the virus cannot find us and it will die out.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Oh.
She's muted.
Well, I would like to pass it on to Matt Bowman.
All right. Well, listen, everyone, I want to thank everyone for participating. First and foremost, virtually, let's give a big round of applause for Dr. J. You did a fantastic job, sir. I'm sitting here in front of your machines right now, and one day, one of these middle schoolers who heard this presentation will be in a lab in Tampa or in Florida running one of these machines. I want to thank our sponsors, Lockheed Martin, Jacob Corporation, our chairman, Lieutenant General Bruce Crawford, and our chairman emeritus, Vice Admiral Walt Davis, U.S. Navy retired. But most importantly, I want to thank the kids. The principal, Dr. Berry, Miss Clayton, down in Tampa at Young Magnet Middle School. Thank you for your participation. Thank you to our BEYA Stars and Stripes STEM ambassadors, Celia, Moria, and Lydia. You young ladies did a fantastic job taking this message to the people. So with that, as we wrap up, I'd like to go to our BEYA Stars and Stripes founder, Brigadier General Velma Von Richardson, for our final remarks, and we'll see you all next month. General Richardson, ma'am, over to you.
Well, thank you, Matt. And let me also express my gratitude and fascination with the presentation that you presented today, Dr. J. It was very, very interesting. I am super interested in DNA. I'm a little bit old to be going back to school, though, for such a thing, but science and things of the sort that you talked about today certainly fascinate me. And I pray that the students found this opportunity to hear from you to kind of find their passion and help to maybe move them into the area of STEM and science. And to Dr. Berry and her class, I am just so excited that you've taken this opportunity to spend this Saturday morning with us. I hope that you'll be excited enough to the students, I mean, that you'll be excited enough that you'll want to join this program every second Saturday of the month, and just gain more and more information about all of the careers that are out there for you. I do believe in exposure, and if you whatever you're exposed to, I think can in fact increase the chances that you will get to your passion and be very, very successful. Maybe even somebody in your class, Dr. Berry, would like to become one of the student ambassadors like Moria and Lydia and Celia. We have a couple of other male student ambassadors as well that are not on today, but hopefully somebody in your class would like to do that. And the last thing, let me leave your students with just one thought. And that is that some things, as Dr. J talked about, are inherited. So that has a lot to do with your DNA. But there are some things that are not in your DNA. And that is a good reputation, trust, and respect for you. And those things have to be earned. So best wishes to you, and back over to Celia.
Thank you so much, General Richardson, and thank you to Dr. J for such a wonderful presentation, and thank all of you for joining the April Career Day. Our May Career Day will be inventor Dr. Paul Judge. He is an inventor and entrepreneur who has started many companies, and he appears in Housewives of Atlanta with his wife. We also have a very special thanks to our Career Day sponsor, Lockheed Martin. They are known for their groundbreaking work in aerospace, arms, defense, information security, and technology all around the world. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay tuned to receive more great information.